What do men want?
Manifests itself in relationships, and you feel it in relationships, and they can be very powerful spiritually. And if that's what you need, that's what you should go for.
And she said, oh, I'm going to go do a sweat lodge this evening. And I begged her to take me along, and that was about 6 years ago.
Welcome to Speaking of Men. You're watching public access television from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm your host, Mike Rivas. In December of 1991, we did a special program called A Son's Search for His Father that's focused on the struggles of a young fellow from Clovis, New Mexico named Billy Scott to find an absent dad, a father who had been missing for a number of years. As a result of that program, our guest in the studio this evening is Richard Luehring, who is a licensed private investigator who has volunteered his services to support Billy in his efforts to find his father. Our topic this evening is searching for family, and Richard is going to share his experiences with us in how anyone might attempt to find a missing loved one. This is a live program this evening, and you can call us at 292-3263, and hope you might call in and ask Rich a question or two. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you. How long have you been in in your particular line of work, and how did you first become interested in it?
I've been in this business for over 19 years with professional experience, and I first got involved with it when I was in college and have progressed through the field since then.
20 years worth, huh?
Just about.
You bet. How often do you deal with cases of missing people?
We're getting more and more cases where we're involved with missing persons or skip tracing of individuals for various reasons.
How often do these cases involve parents looking for children or vice versa?
Not too much parents looking for children. We're getting more and more cases of actually parents of children looking for their natural parents, their adopted children, and they're trying to find their natural parents.
And what kinds of, could you give me an example of what kinds of missing person cases you've handled? And
most of the ones that we've been working recently have been for some sort of a civil action where a person has either owes money or is being looked for other reasons. We've been recently contacted to attempt to find the divorced mother of a family where the daughter is getting married, and the daughter would like to have the mother present for the wedding.
So it's, some of it is just sentimental reasons, and
right.
Some of it is financial. Any cases which come to your mind that you can talk about as an example of this, maybe?
Well, the most recent one was the one I just mentioned.
Right.
Was this the daughter looking for the mother? We've had other cases where the father of a divorce case is now looking to find his son, only because the son attempted to contact him and didn't leave a number to call back on or an address. So he's rather curious, after a period of time, why is the son looking for him now? So now he's going to reverse it and try to find him.
That's almost a reverse of Billy's
Yes, it is.
attempt. How would someone begin a search for a parent or a child?
Well, the first thing I'd recommend is that they would take and contact their immediate family. There's a lot of information there from their parents, grandparents, uncles, brothers, sisters. They may have information. In the case of a child trying to find their natural parents, in the case of an adoptive situation, they will have a birth certificate which will give them a place to start. It gives them a date and a time, a hospital, usually a city and a county to go back, and you can start searching and accessing records in those points. And there's some groups in these towns that will also help you get access to those information and those records.
And what kinds of information, so let's go over that again. What kinds of information would they compile, and what kinds of information are generally available to them then? Just to get clear.
Off of certain documents, you can find a lot of information such as parents' date of birth, possibly a social security number. Even with children, nowadays it's not uncommon to find children at birth or shortly after are receiving social security numbers, and we can use those.
And that just ties into a national network that lets you. We have a short break coming up that'll take a little bit of a look at our attempts to aid Billy Scott in finding his dad and a couple other public service messages. We hope you'll stay with us because we will be right back.
In September 1990, William J. Scott began looking for his son Billy, whom he hadn't seen in more than 6 years. Unknown to William, Billy also began a search for his father a few weeks later. In early December, Billy Scott appeared with us on Speaking of Men, hoping to get the word to his father. If you know William J. Scott, won't you help us reunite them? Here's what we know about Billy's father. William J. Scott was reported to have been living in the Albuquerque area for the past 5 years. He's 31 years old, 6 foot 1 inches tall, with brown hair and blue eyes. He may have been working in a local sawmill or lumber yard, though he may be contemplating a move to Alaska. If you have any idea where William J. Scott is, please tell him to call me, Mike Krachowski, at 268-5260, and we'll find a way to get father and son together again.
Every day, all over America, thousands of abused and neglected children fall through the cracks of our court and foster care systems. They are often misplaced or forgotten, robbed of their chance for the future. You can help by becoming a court-appointed special advocate, a child's voice in court. Be a CASA volunteer. Speak up for a child.
The animals in the forest. If they could talk, what would they say? They might say, be careful with fire in the forest. Just like Smokey says, only you can prevent forest fires.
Welcome back to Speaking of Men. I'm your host, Mike Rivas. Our guest in the studio today is licensed private investigator Richard Luehring, and we're talking about the search for family and how the individual might approach finding a lost loved one. Richard, let's continue talking a little bit about the kinds of information that someone can compile themselves in beginning a search.
All right. A lot of times people will have addresses, and they may even be very old addresses, 5, even 10 years old. But
hold 1 second. We have a call.
All right.
Good evening. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I think men are sexy.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Well, good. Good. Go find one. Thanks a lot. So, Rich, tell me the other kinds of things that you're looking for there.
Well, with addresses, a lot of times we can go back and do a neighborhood canvass and find some established people who lived in the area who may know the person that we're looking for and may know where they have moved to. So that's an advantage to start with, so old addresses that they would have. Looking through records like photographs and things like that may have some identifying marks in the background that would help us lead to where a person might be, any letters, etc. telephone records. Sometimes a person may make a phone call that will go, and why are they calling Spokane, Washington? Well, it may be just a chance call, but it's something that we can use to try following up on things.
So then when do you think, if someone's compiled this stuff, when should a person seek help from an investigator?
Well, usually when they run into a wall themselves, they start looking for help. And we can offer a independent, objective view of what they've compiled so far. And depending on the type of service that they want, we can either direct them on how to continue their search, or we can take over the search for them and continue in other avenues that we have available to us. Most investigators usually have an inside line to other databases and other channels of information which are very valuable to helping locate an individual.
How do you guys approach the search yourselves?
Well, we look at the information that the client has supplied us, and we interview them and try to get more information out of them. A lot of times what they have written down they think is important, but there's things that they may have not written down which are even just as important to us, so we can take it and add that to it and help proceed the search on.
Rich, we have another call here.
Okay.
Let's see who we have this time. Thanks for calling.
Hi, my name is Rick, and I'm a long-time listener. I watch the show a lot, and I want to say that guy who called up before said that men are sexy. Well, I agree too, but if he's going to find one, he has to go to the gay bar like I do. One is called Foxes, and they're real good to go to.
Uh-huh. Well, that's good, guys. Continue those lifestyles, continue watching, and thanks for calling, buddy. Go ahead and let's pursue it.
Well, we can use this information as we talk to these people, and sometimes they'll give us another angle to take and look at people. For an example, with Billy Scott, we're looking at his military background now, and we're trying to get information on his father from the military. And some of this will take time for us to get that, and it may provide us with another lead, another avenue to take and try to locate him.
So places like the military are fairly open to those kinds of searches. They'll kind of help you guys if you approach them.
Yes, they will.
How cooperative are the police in that, or when might it be advisable to look for help from law enforcement?
Law enforcement in general will not get into a missing persons case unless there is evidence of a criminal event being involved, or if it is a juvenile who is a recent disappearance case, or in the case of domestic kidnapping, where a parent may have custody of the child on a temporary basis and then fails to either return the child or, in essence, just kidnaps the child and disappears.
So then how would an interested person then begin to select an investigator? I mean, let's say that you had a situation in place, you wanted to find somebody, you had gone as far as you could, and you were thinking about calling up. I mean, how would you go about doing that?
I would ask around. Most established and reputable investigators have a reputation in town, and they have a network of people who know about them and can lead people to them. Check with your attorney. Attorneys, law firms often retain investigators for various purposes and can take and refer you to a person in that field for the service that you need. Use the phone book. A lot of people advertise in the phone book, and you call them up and ask them questions on their background, their expertise. There are private investigators who specialize only in certain type of cases, and they will not take certain cases. So, and they will know somebody that they might be able to refer you on to with that, so that's a good start there.
You were mentioning that child support enforcement is something that you guys do a whole bunch about. If you were a mom, you were saying there's no statistics on, you don't have a 50% rate, or it's just, you don't have a 50% or 40% success rate, or that? You just,
well, we like to think we're fairly successful in what we do, but there's no guarantees. If someone wants to be found, we can find them. If they really don't want to be found, it's a little bit more difficult to take and find them. It takes more time. In the cases that we've been involved with in domestic support or child support cases, we've been retained by the family to locate the individual, and then once we find them, we turn that information over to the court system, and then the local agency then takes up the investigation.
Are there fields of specialization that might lead a potential client to want, I mean, I guess what I'm asking you is, can you give us some ideas of the kinds of things you guys specialize in? I mean, are there several different categories that...
Sure. There's investigators who specialize in doing fire investigations. There's others who specialize in doing missing persons type investigations. There's others who specialize in doing corporate and white-collar crime. There's some generalists that take and tack on to a lot of various type cases, insurance cases, pre-trial for criminal or civil cases. So they can be pretty specialized in the areas that they're going, and that's what you want to look for, someone who's predominantly specializing in those areas that you need the assistance in.
I see. I'd like to remind our audience that you can call us at 292-3263. We're speaking with private investigator Richard Luehring, who is our guest today, and we're talking about the search for family. And I might also make mention that the men's movement is not so much about what we do with our bodies as it is about the journey that we have going on in here. And it's nice to have you down here. I'm wondering, since our connection is with you is through the Billy Scott case, could you tell us a little bit about your involvement in that a little bit more, maybe?
Well, this has been a rather unique case because we don't have a lot of verifiable information. We're not sure on dates of birth and possible addresses. We do know that through some searches that we've done so far is that Billy's father has not had a driver's license in New Mexico for at least 6 years. So there is some question as to whether he's been in New Mexico for that period of time, or even if possibly he may have changed his name, which could or could not have happened with that. So.
And how did you come to hear about this? Just for the record.
Well, your producer Mike
Kruchowski
was on a broadcast show talking about this case, and I contacted him after that, and we discussed what was going on with that, and after that I volunteered my services. So far you haven't been able to find out a whole lot, or? No, we've been pretty much coming up to some dead ends with it, but we haven't given up yet. We're hoping to get some more information back from the military, which would confirm some information that we're missing already, and that will help us up with that.
Right. He's a great kid. I hope he finds his dad. I sincerely do. Now, Unsolved Mysteries gave Fox 14 a call or something, and they were interested in maybe pursuing it nationally. Did you know about that aspect of it, or?
Yes, they've been in contact with us and are interested in doing a national broadcast in regards to the search for Billy's father, and which is very good because that gets a lot of recognition out to a wide audience, and could help us find those people, those relatives that Billy and his mother are not aware of. Their location would probably contact us or contact the TV show and give us a lead as to where we can start looking again.
Are there any things that we haven't covered in this evening's interview that you'd like to mention? You said particularly you had a list of about 3 things that you had given me that people who are looking for somebody missing, main points, you said. The 3 main, you might summarize those for us.
The more factual information that an individual has on the person that they're trying to look for, the easier it is to attempt a search for them. Names, date of birth, addresses, social security numbers, things that are verifiable or at least confirmed with that. It saves time, it sets a focus for the investigation as to where we can look, and it saves money for the client in the long run too, because we aren't wasting their time trying to verify information they may already have. And be sure of the reasons that you want to search. Do you really want to find this individual, or is it just a whim? And then be prepared for rejection. The person, we may find them and they don't want to have contact.
I see. This be prepared for rejection, dead ends, and disappointment. There are no guarantees that the person wants to be found, or even if they're alive. Do you run into that a whole bunch, or?
I have found that in one case that I did where the individual that we found had been dead for a number of years, and the client took it rather difficultly on that.
He didn't, okay. So I think that's real interesting. You have to really look at your reasons. It's not, you're trying to find them, they're not trying to find you. We have a short tape cued for you. Actually, it's not so much a tape as our bulletin board that we're going to run, so we hope you'll look at upcoming events. Before we go into the tape, I would like to tell you, if you were planning to attend, that the James Hillman Michael Meade workshop sponsored by the Jungian Society has been canceled this weekend. So that's one thing that's not happening that you might have planned to attend. So we hope you'll check the bulletin board for upcoming events. Please stay with us because we will be right back. Welcome back to Speaking of Men. I'm your host, Mike Rivas. Our topic today is searching for family, and our guest live in the studio is private investigator Richard Luehring, who has given us some tips on finding lost family. I also want to remind you that this is a live program this evening on Friday the 27th of March. The one Saturday and Sunday will be taped, but this is live, and you can call Richard and ask him questions at 292-3263, and we invite your comments. Rich, let's just, we have about 5 minutes before wrap-up. Let's go ahead and just summarize again, front to back, how someone might approach this. Now, the first thing they would do is gather documents and information. Now, what kinds of stuff is that again?
Birth certificates, tax returns, marriage license, divorce license, anything that they may have in their files. Old photographs going back through a number of years may take and help them find a location or something, or they may have gotten something in the mail. Some people have a tendency to save old Christmas cards, and that may be the last address that they have for an individual. And that's all a place to start with. After that, they can take and go back to hospitals, medical records, insurance records, and try to obtain addresses from that. An individual can contact most states for their driver's license information if they know the person they're looking for, their name and date of birth or social security number. They can usually take and find if they have a current driver's license in that state. And that would, again, help them take and locate that individual.
You were saying before the program that the Mormon Church has an extensive, that most people aren't aware that they have an extensive genealogical library.
Yes, they do. They have probably the best data available in North America if you're looking for a long family. The genealogy section, and you can contact the local temple here and they can tell you how to get involved with that, and they will help you with that. They have online computer services and also research center available in Salt Lake City that you can write with the information, and they will do the research for you on that.
For free?
For free.
I'll be.
That. A lot of times information is collected by other relatives and submitted to this. A lot of genealogy clubs and everything will take information and submit it to them, and it'll be on file with them. And it just doesn't deal with the Mormons or the Mormon Church. It deals with everybody with that.
That's kind of a great service they offer there, right?
Especially if you want to find about your family,
About your
going
family.
way back when.
Right. So the first thing is to put together all the documentation you can personally, and then you were saying the next approach is to begin to approach private investigators, and give me some idea again on types and finding them.
Well, a lot of investigators specialize, and they will advertise that for the type of specialty that they're doing. Ask around, ask friends who may have used a private investigator, ask your attorney, ask a professional group to find out if they have an investigator. In New Mexico, there's the New Mexico Private Investigators Association. There's the American Society for Industrial Security. There's ION out of Phoenix or out of Tempe, Arizona, which is the investigators' resource line. And you can contact people in specialty areas with that. And ION has an 800 number, and you can contact investigators around the country through that.
Anything we haven't covered?
I think one of the things that we need to tell is the people need to be sure of why they want to do the search and to be prepared for it. In most of my cases that I work, I act as a third-party intermediary, and we've had times where the person we've been looking for does not want to have any contact, or they are dead, and or for some reason, you know. It's always nice to be able to get people back together again, but there are people who just have reasons who do not want to get back together again, and the person who is conducting the search has to be ready for that rejection, because they get their hopes up, and when all of a sudden they say, I'm sorry, you know, they just don't want to have any contact with you. They have to be prepared for that.
Richard Luehring, I'd like to thank you for being on the program today, and we also appreciate your help in Bill Scott's search for his father. This program is Speaking of Men. It's a program about men and for men. It looks at men's lifestyles and issues in the entire spectrum of masculinity. It's Searching a Journey, and we invite your input and comments. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank every man and woman that volunteers their time to make this program possible. April the 3rd's program will cover coaching and mentorship. April the 10th, creating community spirit. April 17th, a new look at monogamy. I'm your host, Mike Rivets, telling you to stand if you can, run if you have to, and don't quit. Bye-bye. Come back and see us again soon.